In this video, I'll be going over what you need to know about using dynamic warm-ups before working out or exercising so that you'll optimize your performance while also reducing the chances of getting injured. And if you're looking for multiple dynamic warm-up series that you can use for yourself, be sure to watch to the last section of this video where I'll show you how to download my free PDF document to go along with the following dynamic warm-up videos in this playlist. So what are dynamic warm-ups and why are they a good idea? Well, ultimately a dynamic warm-up is a way to physically prepare your muscles, tendons, joints, and nervous system for the upcoming physical activity and the demands that your body is going to be exposed to. Now, it usually consists of a series of movements rather than one single movement. And when these tissues of your body are adequately prepared, you're gonna move better and perform better, which will help improve your athleticism and reduce injury potential. And they have good scientific evidence for their effectiveness, so I'd say it's a good idea to know the basics of incorporating them into your physical activities. So what makes a dynamic warm-up different from traditional static stretching exercises? Well, for starters, we're using, as the name implies, dynamic movements to prepare the body rather than stretches that require the body to be held still. And when it comes to static stretching, this traditional form of stretching isn't nearly as beneficial as we once thought it to be, so we want to use something much more effective when preparing for a physical activity, such as a workout or a sporting event. Now, we used to think that static stretching would help muscles relax and prevent injury, but there's one particular problem with this type of stretching, among others, that I'll quickly mention. So, statically stretching a muscle before a physical activity can actually reduce the muscle's performance potential. And this is essentially because we're holding a muscle in a lengthened position when static stretching, which will neurologically inhibit the muscle. Now, think of it as making the muscle a bit sleepy, which is the last thing that you want to do when trying to prepare a muscle for a physical activity. You want your muscles to be awake and ready to go, not sleepy. Now, to be clear, it doesn't mean that static stretching is evil, rather that it's just not likely the ideal intervention to use before a workout. Rather, doing it after a workout would likely be a more ideal time. And additionally, static stretching doesn't help with increasing blood flow into the muscles or to get your nervous system, which speaks to those muscles, ready for physical activity. And we need to do this because a warm muscle that's filled with blood will likely be more supple and move better than one that isn't, which can greatly reduce injury potential. And as well, a muscle that has an elevated neurological input will perform better for physical activity. So we're going to need something better than static stretching here. And this is where dynamic warm-ups can really shine. So what makes for a good dynamic warm-up? Well, a good dynamic warm-up is one that will raise your body's core temperature enough to have you break a light sweat while also performing generalized movements that are somewhat similar to the movements you'll be putting your body through during your physical activity session or your workout or your sporting activity. Now, the result is an elevated rate of blood flow through your limbs and an increase in what we call sympathetic activity from your nervous system. So think of an elevated rate of blood flow into your muscles like priming the fuel lines in an engine, and think of ramping up the sympathetic activity in your nervous system like increasing the idling RPMs. And it all just means that your body is much more ready to go than if you'd simply hopped right into your activity session. Now, one of the more rather important concepts to understand with dynamic warm-ups is that there's no one single universal best movement or series of movements to perform. Now, there are some general concepts to be mindful of, but so long as you're following these concepts, you can actually pick and use movements that feel best for your needs and/or abilities. Some of the general concepts you'll want to follow include performing movements that provide a rather mild and brief stretch, rather than movements that aggressively stretch a muscle or a joint, or a stretch that's held for a long duration of time. You'll also want to make sure that you start with a series of movements at a slower pace, with more generalized movements, and then progress into more specific, demanding, or faster movements. And you'll also want to modify or avoid any movements that are painful, uncomfortable, or otherwise problematic for you. You'll also want to make sure that you've broken a light sweat, or at least feel like you're warmed up by the end of your series of movements. And generally speaking, a good dynamic warm-up shouldn't take any longer than about 10 minutes, though it really can depend based on your upcoming activity that you'll be performing and other unique factors. Now, if you're wanting to try some dynamic warm-ups that have worked very well for my athletes over the years, I've got a series of completely free dynamic warm-ups that you can try and modify and use based on your own needs. Now, I filmed videos of each series of these exercises with a narrated walkthrough for each individual movement. And you'll find those videos within this playlist, so pick which one sounds best for you and your needs and have at it. And they're generalized to an extent that they should work for various physical activity sessions, such as working out in the gym or warming up for a sporting event. But the key is to modify and customize any warm-up you do so that it's most ideal for your needs and your abilities. So use them as a starting point and refine them to your own desires. And if you'd like a PDF of these dynamic warm-up series that you can use for future reference, you can pick it up over on my Buy Me a Coffee page. It's completely free to download. However, if you would like to support my channel and my online pursuits, you're more than welcome to buy me a coffee. All right, with that being said, go warm yourself up and get moving. And I'll see you in the next video.